Hi, I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. It occurred to me yesterday after having lit my smoker that although I've recorded a video of lighting smokers, I never actually published one. So I'm going to record one now and we'll get it out. So just as a show you what I do. So the trouble with smokers, first of all, is it's just setting it up. And if you set it up right, then you should be pretty good for keeping it lit. Just to show you some of the structure as well, which is important. And of course, when your smoker gets all full of creosote and that sort of thing like this, it's harder to take apart. But let me get this piece out because I want to show you this piece. But with all the creosote, makes it harder to get in and out. Okay, so you've got your little plate underneath, a perforated plate. Various designs, but there's got little legs here. Those legs go down so it holds a gap, a space underneath the smoker, underneath the fuel there. So once you can get that plate in, and be careful that it doesn't turn upside down as you push it in. Oh, what the heck? Okay, you can show in there. You're going to push it in. I want to make sure it gets turned over. With all this creosote, it's all a bit of a mess, but now if you can look in there, you see the plate's about 1 inch off the bottom, and that's the key. Then the key to lighting a smoker is you use a small amount of fuel to start with. I use pine needles, sticks and twigs and that sort of thing that I get from underneath the pine trees. The thing that people find, the problem with their smoker is getting it lit in the first place and then keeping it lit. They find that the smoke just fades out, and that's usually because of a lack of airflow or a lack of having the fuel really burning well to start with. And of course, what you always find is that your smoker goes out just before you go into the meanest hive in the yard. And so just when you really want the smoker, that's when it goes out. So it really pays to get that right. So I'll show you what I do. I use these pine needles and sticks and twigs, and you start off with a tiny amount of fuel in the smoker. You get a little bit of that fuel burning right up, and you just take your time lighting the smoker. Get a little fire going in it. A little bit more fuel then goes in. I keep blowing air through it until it's flaming again. Then if you've got some sticks and twigs, it doesn't really matter. What I do is I start breaking up those twigs so they don't get in the way. And then a little more fuel. Pine cones as well. Doesn't really matter. As long as it's nice and dry. So pre-dry your pine needles before you use them. If they're damp, you're going to struggle. Once I've got a fair amount in there burning nicely, and you can see I'm getting a flame almost right away when I'm pumping it, then I continue to add a little bit more, small amounts at a time. And if I went into the yard now with that, it would probably last 10 minutes or so, which for most beekeepers and hobbyists, if you only got one hive, that's just about all you need. But I go into the yards and I might be in there for 2 or 3 hours, and I don't want to keep on having to stock things up. So what I also carry around with me is I will use some wood pellets. There's a bit more stuff there. So I have a pellet burning stove in my living room, so I just take a handful of those, put those in. And then I'll put a little bit more pine needles over it. Again, just a small handful. There's a small amount goes in there. I'll put some more wood pellets on that. That gives you airflow between your sources of fuel. Now this will keep burning. Now this will keep burning for an hour and a half, 2 hours. If I'm planning to be in here for a good length of time, I might put another handful or two of wood pellets in there. So now I know what I've got under here now is a good fire, lots of embers burning underneath. And if I pump this more, I'd be getting flames out the top. So we've got a really strong amount of smoke here. So this is good enough. I can put my top down, and that's going to keep going for a good hour to 2 hours. So that's the way you get your smokers going. Smoke will really help keep your bees calm. The effect of the smoke is that the bees, first of all, will go and fill up with honey, and a bee with tummies full of honey makes it even harder for them to bend their back, so it makes it hard to sting. But also, the smoke blocks the transmission of alarm pheromone in the hive, and that keeps all the bees calm, even if you're squishing a few by accident as you go through. So putting a bit of smoke in the hive, especially this time of day, we're going in not even 9 o'clock in the morning, so still full of field bees. You want to get in, put some smoke in the hive to keep them relatively calm. So that's it. That's how I light a smoker. I recommend you get some wood pellets if you want to keep it going for a length of time. But you can use things like newspaper, burlap, all sorts. But the key is start with a small amount of fuel, get that really burning, then add fuel in small increments while you get them all burning in a pile under there. So you've got lots of embers, which will keep the whole thing lit. And then make sure you keep pumping air in there now and again. I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. See you next time. Thank you.